Welcome to our deep dive into the Chandogya Upanishad.
Oh, yeah.
This ancient Indian text is
Okay.
a treasure trove of wisdom about the self and the universe.
Mhm.
It's like getting a crash course in some of life's biggest questions. What happens after death, the structure of the universe, and even the path to true happiness.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the Chandogya Upanishad uses stories, analogies, and dialogues to make these complex philosophical ideas
Mm.
surprisingly accessible.
Right.
It's not just an intellectual exercise. It's a guide to experiencing reality in a whole new way.
Yeah, it's a dense text, though.
Okay.
So we're here to help you sift through those layers and extract those aha moments. Let's start with one of the most intriguing concepts,
Yeah.
the Panchani Vidya, the five fires.
Okay.
I've always found this idea so mind-bending.
Hmm.
It basically says that everything, even something as simple as rain,
Right.
originates in the celestial realms and makes its way down into the physical world through these five symbolic fires.
Yeah, it's a way of understanding the universe as this interconnected web of energy and transformation.
Okay.
Imagine, even a raindrop is part of a cosmic process that starts in the heavens.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that what we perceive as separate and mundane is actually part of a much grander scheme,
So these five fires are the celestial world,
right?
the atmosphere, the earth, man and woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a recipe for creation, right?
Mm.
The text uses the example of rain. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere.
Right.
It begins as a vibration in the celestial realm,
Mm-hmm.
then moves through these stages, almost like a divine sacrifice, before we experience it here on Earth.
It's a perspective shift, isn't it? Instead of seeing the universe as a random collection of events,
Right.
the Panchani Vidya encourages us to see the interconnectedness, the flow of energy from the subtle to the gross. What appears random becomes part of this intricate dance.
What I find particularly mind-blowing is how this concept challenges our perception of time and space. It's like the Chandogya Upanishad is saying that what we perceive as linear is actually part of a cyclical process.
Exactly. And it raises the question, what other seemingly ordinary events in our lives might have this hidden cosmic dimension? It invites us to look deeper, to see the extraordinary within the ordinary.
I love that. Now, another key idea that weaves through the Chandogya Upanishad is the Vaishvanara Vidya, which introduces the concept of the universal self, or Vaishvanara. This idea is all about recognizing the all-pervading reality that exists behind each individual self. It's like saying that we're not just separate beings, but expressions of this universal consciousness.
And this concept ties in beautifully with the Panchani Vidya.
Yeah.
It suggests that we're not just connected to the universe, we are the universe,
Right.
in a sense. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm and vice versa.
I always think of the story of King Ashvapati, who is a master of Vaishvanara Vidya. He taught his students to literally see the universe within themselves. It's like that saying, as above, so below.
The Upanishad uses such vivid imagery to illustrate this idea.
Okay.
Heaven is the head of the universal self, the sun is the eye, air is the breath, and so on. It's a way of expanding our awareness and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
It definitely makes you rethink your place in the grand scheme of things. But how do we actually apply this concept to our lives? Is it just a cool philosophical idea? Or can it truly change the way we see the world and ourselves?
That's a great question, and I think the Chandogya Upanishad offers some guidance.
Yeah.
It points us toward the importance of knowledge, not just information, but a deep understanding of reality that leads to liberation.
This makes me think of the story of Svetaketu and his father Uttalaka. I find their dynamic so fascinating. Uttalaka, this wise sage, uses everyday objects like a clay pot and salt dissolving in water to teach his son about the nature of reality. Who would have thought such simple things could hold such profound lessons?
Those simple analogies pack a punch, don't they? The clay pot, though it appears to have its own form, is ultimately just clay.
Yeah.
The salt, even though we can't see it anymore, is still present in the water.
Right.
It's a beautiful way to illustrate how we can mistake appearances for reality.
It's like the Upanishad is saying, don't be fooled by the surface level. There's always something deeper to discover. But what is that deeper reality? What is it trying to reveal to us?
The Chandogya Upanishad points toward a fundamental reality that it calls Sat.
Okay.
It's the unchanging essence that underlies the ever-changing world of appearances.
Okay, so Sat is like the ground of being
Right.
the ultimate reality. But we also experience the world as full of change, diversity, and even illusion.
Mm-hmm.
How does the Upanishad reconcile these seemingly opposing ideas?
That's where the concept of Maya comes in. Maya is often translated as illusion. But it's not about denying the reality of our experience. It's more about recognizing that what we perceive as separate and solid is actually interconnected and ever-changing.
So Sat is the unchanging reality, and Maya is the veil of illusion that makes us perceive things as separate and impermanent. It's a lot to wrap your head around. I'm curious, though, how does understanding these concepts actually lead to liberation?
That's a question that the Chandogya Upanishad explores in depth. It suggests that liberation comes from realizing our true nature as Sat, as that which is beyond the limitations of time, space, and causality. It's about recognizing the unity behind the diversity, the eternal behind the fleeting.
And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of the Chandogya Upanishad, the journey of the soul after death.
Oh, yeah.
It's a topic that has captivated humans for centuries,
Right.
and the Upanishad offers a detailed and thought-provoking account.
What's interesting is that the Chandogya Upanishad doesn't present just one simple afterlife scenario. It describes different possibilities, highlighting the role of knowledge and action in shaping the soul's journey.
It's like the Upanishad is acknowledging the complexity of existence, even beyond this physical realm. So tell me more about these different paths. What does the Upanishad say about what happens to the soul after death?
Well, the Upanishad describes the soul's ascent through various realms, with the sun acting as a crucial stage.
Okay.
It even talks about an encounter with a superhuman being who guides the soul towards Brahmaloka, the realm of the Creator.
Wow, it sounds like an incredible journey. But I remember the Upanishad also mentions another possibility,
Right.
emerging into being that happens unconsciously. What's
Yeah.
the difference between these two paths?
The key distinction lies in the presence or absence of knowledge. The soul that has attained true knowledge embarks on a conscious journey, while the soul without that understanding merges unconsciously.
It really underscores the emphasis on knowledge as a means of liberation, even in the afterlife. It's like the Upanishad is saying that true understanding illuminates not just this life, but the journey beyond.
Precisely. And speaking of seeking knowledge, the story of Narada and Sanat Kumara really captures this yearning for deeper understanding.
Okay.
Here we have Narada, a wise sage,
Right.
yet still troubled by sorrow.
Yeah.
He approaches Sanat Kumara seeking knowledge that will lead him beyond his suffering.
It's a story that resonates with me even today. We all face challenges and seek solutions. What strikes you about Narada's quest? What can we learn from his journey?
What fascinates me is how Sanat Kumara guides Narada through a series of stages of knowledge. Each stage represents a deeper level of understanding, starting with name, which is just words and concepts,
Right.
and moving through speech, mind, will, memory, hope, life,
Wow.
and finally, bliss.
It's a progression, isn't it? From the superficial to the profound, from the limited to the limitless. It suggests that there's always more to learn, always another layer to uncover. But how do we actually move through these stages? What does it take to progress on this path of knowledge?
That's where the Upanishad's emphasis on inner transformation comes into play. It's not just about accumulating knowledge,
Okay.
but about embodying it, allowing it to change our perception and our way of being in the world.
It makes me think of that powerful statement in the Chandogya Upanishad, Nalpe Sukham Asti Pumaiva Sukham. There is no happiness in the finite, only in the infinite fullness is happiness. It seems to be pointing us inward toward a source of joy that goes beyond external circumstances.
Absolutely. The Upanishad encourages us to shift our focus from seeking happiness and fleeting pleasures to realizing our connection to the infinite source of joy within.
That's such a powerful idea, but it can also feel a bit abstract. How do we access that inner wellspring of happiness? What practical steps can we take?
The Chandogya Upanishad provides some guidance through practices like meditation, contemplation, and ethical living. It also emphasizes the importance of a spiritual teacher, a guru, who can help us navigate the inner landscape and remove the obstacles to self-realization.
This reminds me of the beautiful imagery of the city of Brahman, located within the heart.
Here you go.
It's described as a place of peace, joy, and limitless potential, a lotus within the heart, containing a space that shines with its own light.
That imagery speaks to the idea that true fulfillment is found not in the external world, but in the depths of our own being. It's an invitation to turn inward,
Yeah.
to discover the vastness and radiance that reside within each of us.
It's a reminder that we already possess everything we need for true happiness. We just have to learn how to access it. But it's not always easy to find that inner city, is it? Life can feel pretty chaotic and overwhelming sometimes.
That's where the Upanishad's teachings on Dharma, or righteous conduct, come in. Dharma isn't about rigid rules.
Okay.
It's about aligning our actions with the wisdom of the universe, living in a way that promotes harmony and well-being for ourselves and others.
So Dharma is about recognizing our interconnectedness and acting accordingly. It's about making choices that support the greater good, not just our own selfish desires.
Exactly. And the Chandogya Upanishad offers practical guidance on how to live a dharmic life through values like truthfulness, nonviolence, compassion, and self-control. These aren't just moral principles, they're practices that help us cultivate inner peace and clarity.
I'm always drawn to the stories in the Upanishads. They bring these concepts to life in such a relatable way. What story comes to mind for you when you think about Dharma in action?
The story of King Janisruti and the sage Raikva immediately springs to mind. Here's a king, powerful and wealthy,
Right.
seeking wisdom from a humble sage living under a cart.
Oh, wow.
It challenges our assumptions about where true wisdom resides and reminds us to look beyond external appearances.
It's a powerful reminder that humility and an open mind are essential for true learning. And speaking of learning, the Chandogya Upanishad also highlights the crucial role of a spiritual teacher, or guru, in guiding us on the path to self-realization.
It's like having a skilled navigator to help us navigate the sometimes treacherous waters of the spiritual journey.
Mhm.
The guru isn't just a dispenser of information.
Yeah.
They're a living embodiment of the teachings, someone who has walked the path and can offer guidance based on their own experience.
It makes me think of that analogy of the blindfolded man being led out of a wilderness.
Right.
We may be stumbling around in the dark,
Right.
but a true guru can illuminate the path and help us see clearly.
The guru-disciple relationship is considered sacred in the Upanishadic tradition.
Okay.
It's a bond of trust and respect where the guru imparts knowledge and the disciple receives it with humility and dedication.
It's a beautiful partnership, isn't it? A shared journey of growth and transformation. But the Upanishad also acknowledges that the path to self-realization isn't always easy. There are challenges, obstacles, and even setbacks along the way.
Absolutely. And that's where the concept of karma comes in. Karma, in the Upanishadic sense,
Right.
is the law of cause and effect. It's the understanding that our actions have consequences, not just in this life, but potentially in future lives as well.
So it's like we're planting seeds with every thought, word, and action. And those seeds will eventually bear fruit, whether sweet or bitter.
Precisely. But the Upanishad also reminds us that we're not just victims of fate. We have the power to choose our actions and shape our destiny. By understanding karma, we can make more conscious choices that lead to greater harmony and fulfillment.
It's a message of empowerment, isn't it? It's saying that we have agency, even amidst the complexities of life and the seeming inevitability of cause and effect.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads to another crucial question. If our actions create karma, how do we break free from the cycle of cause and effect? How do we achieve true liberation?
That's where the concept of moksha, or liberation, comes in. What I find fascinating about the Chandogya Upanishad's approach to moksha is that it's not about escaping the world or denying the reality of our experience. It's about transcending the limitations of our ego and realizing our true nature as one with the infinite.
It's about shifting our identification from the limited individual self to the boundless self, the sat, that is the source and substance of all that is.
And the Upanishad suggests that this liberation is possible through self-knowledge, right action, and detachment from the fruits of our actions. It's about recognizing that true happiness and fulfillment don't come from external achievements, but from realizing our inherent oneness with the divine.
The Chandogya Upanishad uses various stories and analogies to illustrate this journey of liberation. One that comes to mind is the story of Upakosala Kamalana, who served his guru, Satyakama Jabala, for 12 years without receiving any direct instruction.
That story always makes me think about the importance of patience and perseverance on the spiritual path. What do you find most striking about Upakosala's experience?
What resonates with me is Upakosala's unwavering faith and dedication. He tends to the sacred fire for 12 years without complaint.
Wow.
And eventually his sincerity is rewarded with profound spiritual insights delivered by 3 divine beings in the form of birds.
It's a beautiful illustration of how grace can sometimes manifest in unexpected ways. And it reminds us that the path to enlightenment isn't always linear or predictable. Sometimes, the greatest breakthroughs come after periods of patient waiting and inner preparation. What other stories in the Chandogya Upanishad stand out to you as particularly insightful or inspiring?
I'm particularly drawn to the story of Satyakama Jabala himself,
Okay.
who, as a young boy, had the courage to admit his unknown parentage when seeking instruction from the sage Gautama.
Right.
His honesty and sincere desire for knowledge impressed Gautama so much that he accepted Satyakama as a student.
It's a story that challenges societal norms and emphasizes that the path to truth is open to all, regardless of background or social status.
Exactly. Satyakama's story speaks to the universality of spiritual seeking and the transformative power of a genuine yearning for knowledge. It's a reminder that true wisdom isn't limited to any particular lineage or social class. It's available to anyone with a pure heart and a willingness to learn.
The Chandogya Upanishad doesn't shy away from exploring the more mystical aspects of reality either. It delves into the power of sound, or nada, and its role in spiritual awakening.
Sound is considered a potent force in the Upanishad.
Okay.
It's believed to be the primordial vibration from which the entire universe emanated. The Upanishad explores the significance of Om, the sacred syllable, as the embodiment of this primordial sound.
I've always found chanting Om to be a deeply grounding and centering practice. There's something so powerful about connecting with that primordial vibration.
By chanting Om, we tap into the source of all existence, aligning ourselves with the creative energy of the universe. It's a practice that can lead to profound states of meditation and spiritual insight.
The Chandogya Upanishad also talks about the anahata nada, the inner sound that can be heard during deep meditation. It's described as the sound of our own true self.
That's a fascinating concept, isn't it? It suggests that beneath the noise and distractions of the external world,
Right.
there's a subtle inner sound that can guide us back to our true nature.
It's like tuning into a deeper frequency, a vibration of pure awareness that connects us to the source of all being.
And this brings us to one of the most profound and challenging teachings in the Chandogya Upanishad, the relationship between the individual self and the cosmic self.
It's a theme that runs through many spiritual traditions, the idea that we are both separate individuals and expressions of a universal consciousness. But how does the Chandogya Upanishad approach this paradox?
It uses a variety of analogies to illustrate this relationship. One of the most famous is the analogy of two birds sitting on a tree. One bird eats the sweet fruit of the tree, while the other simply watches.
I love that analogy. It so beautifully captures the duality of our experience. The bird that eats the fruit represents the individual self,
Right.
caught up in the pleasures and sorrows of the world, while the bird that watches symbolizes the cosmic self, the silent witness, the unchanging reality that pervades all things.
It's a reminder that even as we engage in the world, there's a part of us that remains untouched, a pure awareness that observes without judgment or attachment.
So we're both the experiencer and the witness, the actor and the observer. And the Upanishad suggests that by realizing this duality and shifting our identification from the individual self to the cosmic self, we can attain liberation.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we are not just limited individuals, but sparks of the divine, expressions of the infinite. And when we awaken to that truth, our whole perspective shifts. We begin to see the world with new eyes, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and the inherent unity that underlies the apparent diversity.
It's like waking up from a dream and realizing that we're so much more than we thought we were. It's a profound shift in perspective, isn't it? Moving from a sense of separation to a recognition of unity. And the Chandogya Upanishad offers so many stories and teachings that illuminate this path. What comes to mind for you?
The story of Indra and Virachana always stands out. It's about these two figures, Indra representing the gods and Virachana representing the demons who both approach Prajapati, the lord of creation, seeking knowledge of the self.
Ah, yes, I remember that story. It's not just about receiving teachings, though, is it? It highlights the importance of discernment, of really understanding the teachings, not just accepting them at face value. What do you think is the key takeaway from this story for us as modern seekers?
It's a cautionary tale, isn't it? Indra, through his humility and perseverance, eventually grasps the true nature of the self. But Virachana, though initially dedicated, becomes complacent and settles for a superficial understanding. He misses the deeper meaning.
It makes you realize that spiritual growth isn't a passive process. It requires active engagement, critical thinking, and a willingness to question even our own assumptions.
Exactly. And this brings us to another core concept in the Chandogya Upanishad. The idea that the universe itself is a manifestation of Brahman, the ultimate reality.
It's like saying that everything we perceive, the stars, the mountains, even our own thoughts and feelings, are expressions of this one underlying consciousness.
The Upanishad uses vivid analogies to describe this concept. One is the analogy of a spider spinning its web. Just as a spider creates its web from its own substance, so does Brahman create the universe from its own being. Everything is interconnected, interwoven from the same source.
There's also the analogy of a fire producing sparks. Just as sparks emanate from a fire but eventually return to their source, so do all beings arise from Brahman and ultimately merge back into it.
It's a beautiful way of understanding the cyclical nature of existence, the ebb and flow of creation and dissolution. It's reassuring in a way, knowing that we're all part of this grand cosmic dance.
So the Chandogya Upanishad is not just offering philosophical concepts, it's providing a framework for understanding our place in the universe and our relationship to the divine.
It's a guide to living a life of purpose, and meaning a roadmap to realizing our true nature as Brahman. It encourages us to look beyond the surface level of reality and discover the unity that underlies the apparent diversity.
It's a call to awaken to the truth of who we really are. Not just limited individuals, but expressions of the infinite, sparks of the divine. It's been an incredible journey exploring these ideas with you. What stands out to you as the most impactful teaching from the Chandogya Upanishad?
What I find most powerful is the Upanishad's emphasis on the transformative power of knowledge. It's not just about intellectual understanding, but about a deep inner knowing that can liberate us from suffering and lead us to a profound experience of unity and joy.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. The Chandogya Upanishad, even centuries later, remains a vibrant source of wisdom and inspiration. It invites us to embark on a journey of self-discovery, to question our assumptions, and to realize our full potential as human beings.
And for those who are intrigued by these teachings, I encourage you to explore the Chandogya Upanishad for yourself. There are many translations and commentaries available that can deepen your understanding and appreciation of this timeless text.
Absolutely. It's a text that can be revisited again and again, each time revealing new layers of meaning and insight. And until our next deep dive, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring the mysteries of existence.